I'm joined by Sport24 editor Garen and chief writer Rob. Guys, it looks like it's going to be a tough opening match of the European Tour. We have Box against Wales. Wales are the defending Six Nations champions. Do you think we're going to be able to beat them on Saturday night?
I think so, Jennifer. I think I certainly have a good feeling about the match. I think the Springboks are in quite a good space. It's going to be a very tough game. There's no question about that. You know, going to the Northern Hemisphere at the end of a really tough, long southern rugby season, if you like. Well, it's summer and winter these days because the season is just so desperately long. And I do think that South Africa can muscle their way to victory in this one. It's going to be, the Millennium Stadium is an emotional place to play. The Welsh get very passionate about their side, especially if they get a good head of steam. But I think if South Africa manage to get their noses in front, it'll be a good sign for the rest of the game. I'm not sure if Garen agrees.
Yeah, hi Jen. So I agree with Rob. You know, on paper, this I think is the toughest of the three games.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Welsh team, not only are they defending champions in the Six Nations, but they actually won it 3 times in the last 6 years. And their team's pretty much packed with all the British and Irish Lions players that did so well in Australia this year. So it will be a tough game, but we've got a good record at the Millennium Stadium. We've only lost there once, and that was back in 1999, so 14 years ago. So I'd be very surprised if we don't win, but it will be close. You know, a couple of points here, there might even come down to the ref on the day.
Yeah.
But I expect us to win and fairly comfortably.
Okay, and the Welsh have only beaten the Box once in 26 meetings. Do you think this gives us a big psychological advantage?
Yeah. Look, I mean, the history books show, like you say, we've only lost to them once back in '99, and we only drawn with them once. That was back in 1970. So in 100-odd years, we've got a really good record against them. Again, we only lost to them once in the Millennium Stadium in the north. The roof's going to be open apparently, and they're expecting a bit of rain, which will even favour us more so.
Yeah.
You know, the heavy South African forwards rumbling up should dominate. So yeah, I have a good feeling, and I think Heineken May and the players will be confident heading into Saturday's game.
I just think that the one thing that the Springboks do have is they've definitely got a mental edge over Wales. Wales have sometimes thrown the kitchen sink at South Africa and not managed to get over the line. A case in point is that last meeting between the two countries at the 2011 World Cup in New Zealand, where the Welsh were all over South Africa like a bad rash for most of the game, but they couldn't win. South Africa managed to squeeze it out, and so you just feel as if South Africa, always deep down, even if they go behind, even if there are some difficulties at the Millennium Stadium, will always feel, you know, we can guts this one out. We can get over the line.
Sport24 has said this is the strongest Box starting team of the year. Can you motivate that?
Yeah, on paper, you know, we've got 667 caps in the team and 447 in the backline alone, which is pretty impressive. And our forwards have always been traditionally our strong point. So 220 caps amongst the forwards, but they're a pretty heavy bunch. And I expect them, especially if it's wet, to keep the ball amongst the forwards. Morné Steyn to do a lot of kicking from a fly-off position, and keep the ball ticking over. And yeah, I don't see a problem with us emerging victorious at the end.
I like the fact that Heineken May has reintroduced a lot of really classy, proven players into the side. We possibly had a little bit of a weak link at outside centre with JJ Engelbrecht. They've now brought in Jacques Fourie, who, okay, he's been out of the international scene for a couple of years, which can be dangerous. We'll only know on Saturday whether he's sort of regained his sharpness, but he used to form a lethal centre combination with Jean de Villiers, and I think he could make the world of difference just with that. You know, they say class is permanent, and I'm really excited about seeing somebody like Jacques Fourie back in the mix.
And is it risky for Heineken Meyer to be starting with as many as 3 backline players who are all based from Japan?
Yeah, look, I don't think it's much of a risk. As Rob just hinted to, class is permanent, and they've got proven track records. They're record holders in their respective positions. You've got Jacques Fourie reunited with the skipper, Jean de Villiers. You've got Fourie de Preux coming back, but he did play in the Rugby Championship this year, and he was a standout performer for us. So I don't really see much of an issue there. And then JP Peterson, he's only been out for 12 months. He was on our end-of-year tour last year, so he's been reintroduced into the mix. You know, he's had a couple of weeks to reacclimatise himself with his teammates. So I don't really see a problem. And the Japanese league has improved over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
You know, we saw them fairly competitive against the All Blacks last weekend. So I don't see a problem there at all.
Yeah, the other thing to remember, I think, Garen, is that the Japanese league is quite useful for a lot of South African players in the sense that it is a little bit less intense. You actually get more time between games, apparently for one thing, a little bit of R&R, but also for pure conditioning. They say that there's no substitute for actually taking a little bit of time out of really intense competitive rugby and being able to spend a bit of time in the gym, get your conditioning into good nick. And the fact that somebody like Fourie du Preez came back in and looked pretty sharp from the outset when he came back into the national picture out of Japan will have, I think, encouraged Heineke Meyer to think, I can take a chance on fielding 3 Japan-based players.
And I want to know which Bach players are going to be under the most scrutiny on Saturday.
Well, I'd say Francois Malherbe, he's making his debut. He's only 22. He's been out of rugby for a while now. He hasn't played that much for Western Province or the Stormers this year. He comes in for Jannie du Plessis, who injured himself, has been ruled out of the tour. So he breaks up, if you like, the all Sharks front row of Jannie du Plessis, Bismarck du Plessis and Beast Mtawarira. So he's been introduced. He'll have first test debut nerves, if you like. And then again, maybe on the bench, Peter Steph du Toit. He's the Sharks lock. He's making his debut if he comes on. His grandfather played 14 times for the Boxers. Nice little sentimental thing there for the family. So I think those 2 will be the ones under this, obviously making their debuts under the most scrutiny.
I agree with you in terms of Frans Malherbe. I think he really is he's a little bit of a sort of a fish out of water in this team because he's got a fat 0 in caps terms. When you look at the rest of this particular side picked for Saturday, the starting team has got so much experience in so many positions, and here comes a complete rookie into the front row. The one good thing is that he's got a really experienced, good scrummaging hooker next to him in Bismarck du Plessis. I think that'll help a little bit. Another thing in his favour perhaps is that Jannie du Plessis was taking a little bit of stick for his defensive abilities. Garen, you may remember, missed a few tackles this year in open play, which have led to a few tries. And they do say that perhaps a tight head prop, if there is a tight head prop in a particular important channel, perhaps he shouldn't really be there in the first place, in fairness to the prop. But it'll be interesting to see if Frans Malherbe, from a defensive point of view, outside of the scrums, makes his tackles solidly and just generally puts himself about. But the key focus, I think, will be his scrummaging, I'm sure.
Yeah, because the Welsh front row is pretty strong themselves. Adam Jones, Gethin Jenkins, so they'll be up against it no matter what come Saturday.
And gentlemen, I want to know what your predictions are.
You go first, Rob.
As I say, a good feeling about the game. I think South Africa might win it by a margin of around 7 points.
Yeah, I agree with Rob again. And the history shows I think the average score would be 22-16, so a 6-point victory for South Africa over the years. I see the bookmakers are going for as little as 3. I think it'll be more than that, maybe 8 to 10, somewhere in that field.
Okay, awesome.
Thanks very much.
Thank you very much.